So we've created case studies to show with stores that we've worked with, like what that looks like. So we can show other stores like, hey, store A started selling this 4 for $20 offering. Next thing you know, their monthly went from 500 to 750, and then the next month it just like the velocity just keeps increasing. Because if someone's looking to just buy 2, well then that bartender can be like, hey, well just for like $4 extra, you can just add 2 more units on, and then they just doubled their sale.
At the Cannabis Drinks Expo in San Francisco. I'm here with Kimberly Stolz.
Yes.
Got it right. Thank you, Kim. So she's the senior marketing director here. Responsible for the growth of Keef Brands, a great brand. Growing out of California, especially, and growing in other states now. We're just at the intersection of finding bottlers and so on. But we'll get into that. The idea of me having Kim here is to really understand purely on what goes on when you're pitching your brand to bartenders, to dispensaries, and maybe to distributors. So we'll just go into objection handling and we'll go into the spiel, right, Kim? Kim, thanks for joining me here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, why don't you introduce yourself? I may have skipped some parts, so just give us a little context story on who you are, what you do.
Sure thing. So I work for Keef Brands, which is a cannabis-infused beverage company that was founded in 2010 in Boulder, Colorado. I previously worked as their senior marketing manager, and now I've moved into the head of market development, really kind of concentrating on how to bring markets that aren't doing as well as we would hope and try to bring them out. And that has a lot to do with working directly with retailers, directly with our partners. And so there's just a lot of avenues that kind of comes with that, but it's still very much in lines on the marketing space and sales space.
Got it. I got that wrong, I think. So Colorado, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about first is when you're knocking doors in local market, which maybe yourself, right? Like your team basically, opening up dispensary accounts and opening up meeting bartenders. So first, I would love to know on the approach. Or do you guys mainly do cold calling, or you try an appointment setting? You have a team setting appointments for your reps, or you completely have people opening up new accounts?
Sure. So we're big on the ground people. Okay. We do we go into dispensaries. If we don't know the contact there, we'll go in and we'll try and figure that out. We'll have conversations with the bartenders, try and speak with the managers, get a little bit of an understanding of, the demographic, the product offerings that they do have, if we're not familiar with that, and just kind of trying to figure out how we can get to that point of contact, and then once we do, then we can just then we go from there and pitch the brand. And a lot of times they give you lots of resistance. And sometimes they might not even come out and talk to you, but it's just the
persistence.
Just that persistence and persevering and just staying with it is really key.
Yep.
Yeah.
What have you seen some opening gatekeeper objections that has worked for you, which come across? Obviously, the owner's not here, or we don't buy new products or something, just at the gatekeeper level, okay? We're not even going to the bartenders, but on what you use to literally, introduce yourself and figure it out. What's your first word?
Sure. So a lot of times what we do, especially if they don't have beverage already, and if they don't have beverage already, that's definitely a very good sign that they're probably reluctant to carry beverage for many reasons, whether it's storage capacity issues, they don't even have a refrigerator, or what does that even look like for them? Or do they think that it's, the beverage space is just too small, being only 1% of all cannabis sales, why would I have time for that? It's not really something that's going to move here. But what I think that a lot of them are missing is that it is growing very quickly. And it is a space that is perfect for the canna curious. Those individuals who, maybe come into the dispensary and are too afraid to go too high dose, or have had a bad experience with edibles before. The whole brownie story where, you took it.
The first brownie stories.
Exactly. Or, so beverage really does serve that audience. It allows those individuals to try consuming cannabis in a very sessionable, approaching, familiar aspect that a lot of products don't offer to others. And that's one piece that we kind of pitch to dispensaries and buyers, is that you are missing out on a crowd of individuals who really need this form factor. And And beyond that, we kind of look at what products they might have already, and we say how that could be a complement to that product. For instance, like maybe they do actually have a beverage already, but they only have a low dose beverage. Well, maybe they don't have the 100 milligram or the higher dose for those individuals, or vice versa. So finding where we can complement that dispensary is really key, and kind of just showing what happens when you do bring beverage on, and how the adoption of beverage consumers is kind of unlike any other category. Very often do you see somebody purchase a beverage, try it, and actually come back and make a repeat purchase.
Very often you see that.
Very often, yes.
That's good.
Yes. So it's a lot of, and for us, getting it just kind of getting it off the ground. For a dispensary, we'll run promotions out of the gate. We'll give them all sorts of marketing help.
So you've seen getting repeat is not really a challenge. It's the first
It's
placement,
the first
right?
buy. It's too much. It's a very taboo product still. Shockingly enough. It seems like it's not, but it really is. A lot of people, you say, oh, have you ever drank cannabis before? And that concept just goes in one ear and out the other. Like it's just not something that a lot of people think is there. And I think it's because that it was so difficult to produce initially in the early stages of the industry. And what they did produce in the early stages was
bad tasting. And
bad tasting. So someone never came back to that category. Yes, exactly.
Let's go on your pitch, right? Like you have a meeting with the bartenders, you got like 15 minutes, he or she says, all right, what do you got, right? So in that particular first 5 minutes, what do you really want to cover? And how do you guys present your product?
Sure. So more than anything, especially our 10 milligram doses, we really like to pitch that as an add-on product. We really want to pitch the concept of cart size versus individual profit margin. So one thing that we will say is, a lot of dispensaries look at, okay, if I sell, this ounce of flower or this cartridge, like I'm going to make double that or way more than you would with a beverage. But like the beverage is a very great add-on purchase. It is something that will elevate that cart size. And that's really the goal in a lot of retail, is just having what more can you add on? And when it's a low cost item and it's something that's ready to drink and ready to go, it's a great fit for that, to kind of increase that cart size and kind of push people over the edge. And, maybe they see
and
one.
You have seen that data where, in an alcohol, for example, if a guy comes and walks with Johnny Walker and picks up a nice rosé for wife, right, at the merchandise. So you've seen that sort of cross intersection there. So in our space, let's say in cannabis, someone's flower and all are serious people, right? But then there are people who like maybe the other partner is not into cannabis, and that can be a good segue for them to start a cannabis drinks. But have you seen like data which proves that cart sales are going up if the beverage category was promoted and merchandised at the checkpoints?
Unfortunately, I don't have data to back that up because it's still such a concept that a lot of dispensaries aren't grasping. It is something, once they do understand it, they do see a lot of success on that front. But it is one thing that because arguably this industry is still so small, I wouldn't be able to, what we do have, I wouldn't be able to like really put my foot on it. So
it's small batch of data, basically.
Exactly. I mean, it only honestly wasn't until recently that we started getting real valuable cannabis data in general. So something at that scale is very difficult to be able to actually put numbers to it. But we have seen that when pushing that, we do see that those stores tend to do well and push more velocity.
Apart from that, like what about pricing, support, merchandising? What sort of other things you pitch while pitching the buyer? And how are you assuring them that, hey, sell-through is going to happen?
Sure. So, we work a lot with dispensary partners. A lot of dispensaries are concerned about certain aesthetics. So we make sure that when we create point of sales, that are outside of the refrigerator, which we will supply, branded refrigerators to really anyone who wants them. We actually very much encourage it. But outside of the refrigerators, our goal is, because the beverage is still kind of so taboo, what could we make that would send the concept home, that even though you see a can on the shelf, it blows my mind how many people are still not sure maybe what that product is. So how can we achieve clarity to what that product is by something that has to be small, because a lot of dispensaries have extremely limited space. Something that has to be eye-catching. So what we've kind of done is we've made fake coolers. We literally have, they're about this size. They have fake ice and holes to put the drinks in. And it's literally just to kind of show the concept of, this goes on ice. This is what your beverage cooler looks like, and just kind of pushing that point home.
So you're demoing literally how you can store and consume.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and just
at the dispensary or at the home as well, right?
At the dispensary level for the point of sale.
Understood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And your team sort of carries that model to show them.
Yes, and a lot of it, we do it at events where we, kind of do fake coolers showing that, this should be your norm.
Yeah.
And with cannabis beverage, we're not even trying to say that alcohol shouldn't be in your cooler. We're just saying that it should be an additional option in your cooler, because I don't think that we'll ever totally do away with the alcohol industry, but we're just a complement and an alternative option. So instead of you opening your cooler and it being all beer, no, you should see half cannabis drinks.
Just more options, right?
Exactly.
If a cannabis person comes in.
Exactly, and that's one of our goals, is to kind of just push that concept home, and like I said, give that that look of this is how it's consumed, and this is what you should be doing with it.
Got it. Let's walk on some objections, right? Like give us some 3 or 4 nice objections that you think will help other people on in how to handle. For example, can be I don't have space. This category I don't sell. We are run out of money this time. Buyer's not here. How do you handle these objections?
So again, being persistent, but more than anything, especially with the space thing, if you can cater to what they need, that it's really crucial. So like a lot of times we have accounts that will order weekly because they sell through really well, and it would be nice to be able to send them a few different more cases at a time, but due to storage constraints, we have to make sure that we have the resources in our belt to be able to make sure that we're ordering smaller deliveries on more of a frequent cadence.
Got it.
So if we're able to offer that really helps a lot, because then we're not taking up a severe amount of space in their vault or inventory rooms. So just kind of finding those solutions on just removing that problem in general, or like I said, giving them a refrigerator if they have room on the floor, and say, okay, well, you can keep it all in here. And a lot of times, they need to have a key and lock. So we make sure that it has that capability, so they're not having to carry it from the floor back into the vault every single night if it's if that market is regulated that way, which many are. And then if they say, oh, my buyer's not here, well, that's always unfortunate. You're just going to have to probably come back at the next day.
What about the name, Kim? How do you do homework? Like, how do you find out that, you can try it, right? You can say, hey, is Alex here? I'm looking to meet Alex, his buyer, and so on. So how do you do any research before you go there?
Yes. So a lot of times we do. We'll kind of, we'll speak to, we have a lot of good relationships with other brands. I always highly recommend keeping brands in your arsenal, and kind of getting some insight, because again, we really are all in this together. So any kind of information you could get, because it is definitely helpful when you walk in and you can say, hey, I'm looking for
a name, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool, versus like walking in and being like, hey, I'm just looking for your purchasing manager. So being able to kind of do research ahead of time, talk to maybe brands that you're familiar with in the space that are already in their store, just kind of learn a little bit more about like the way that they maybe do business. Also, it never hurts to bring in a pizza or like some donuts, just to get those bud tenders to speak. Because sometimes that's really what you need to do. Is sometimes if they aren't reluctant, or that they claim that they're in a meeting or whatever that nature is. Sometimes the bud tenders are truly some of the best pieces of information, or individuals that can provide you with a lot of knowledge, whether it's whether they realize it or not. So just kind of pushing them, joking around with them, learning about them, and then they'll kind of open up to you and start giving you information.
Just one last one. On how are you helping bartenders in training or even overall sell-throughs, right? What kind of promotions, what kind of support programs have you guys got in place for dispensaries if a product is not moving?
Sure. So we have quite a few. So there's obviously the incentive model. A lot of
okay. So for example, if you sell 5 cases a week, I don't know what's legal, but for example, it's like $100 Visa card, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Very similar. So we, there are platforms out there that kind of set up the structure for you and make it very easy to do this. So it's like a good structure that we tend to do is maybe for every 10 milligram units that you sell, you get $1. But then it's a threshold sort of incentive as well. So like if you only sold 9, or let's say you sold 19, I guess is a better explanation. You don't actually get that $2 because you didn't hit that next 10 milligram. So it really pushes those bud tenders to want to sell more. But on the education side of things, we actually work with a platform called Zoltrain, which is something that I adopted right when COVID began.
Yeah.
And it's basically a microsite that you kind of can that you can create and customize.
You create your own modules for your brand.
Exactly, and you can link it to a QR code, which we've all become so accustomed to now. So you can put it up in a break room, it just on one sheet with the QR code, and it can always be in their back pocket, and they can always go back and refer to it. Versus, which I think is a lot more beneficial than a lot of in-store trainings. I mean, we definitely do those, and we use that tool when we do that. But like a lot of times, maybe they forget a piece, and it's easy to revert back to. But this kind of model allows we express things in there like, this is your ideal consumer. These are really good selling points that they should have. We include several testimonials. So they can speak to certain use cases.
That's a good one.
So we just make sure that the information that we put in there is just really, really weaponizes these bud tenders. Odd word to choose, but basically to really, push more product and understand it. And when they speak to it, they can actually get behind what they're saying.
Got it. Super. One last one came to my mind is, what do you carry in your suitcase? Just give us an examples of everything, like sales deck, samples. What is it?
So in some markets we can't just bring samples into the store. Others you can. So a lot of times it's always a menu with pricing, data based off of, and for the beverage space, especially for us, we like to show case studies on pushing volume and lower prices.
So an example of dispensaries you worked with?
Yeah, so for instance, like Keef runs really big on the 4 for 20 model with our 10 milligram drinks. And basically a 4 for 20 model doesn't give you full profit margins, like it's not 100% markup, but the velocity that you push with this 4 for 20 model always outweighs that, and you actually end up making more profit in the end. So we've created case studies to show with stores that we've worked with, like what that looks like. So we can show other stores like, hey, store A started selling this 4 for 20 offering. Next thing you know, their monthly went from 500 to 750, and then the next month it just, like, the velocity just keeps increasing. Because if someone's looking to just buy 2, well, then that bud tender can be like, hey, well, just for like $4 extra, you can just add 2 more units on, and then they just doubled their sale basically. So we always kind of bring case studies, any analytical data that backs up basically that we are a good, that
your brand moves, sort of thing.
And that we are a leader in the space, and that we do bring a following to your stores.
That's also important for them, right? Like, are you helping them with the new footfalls?
Sorry?
Are you helping them with the new footfalls, right? Are you actually bringing customers from digital media as well, or something like that? Yeah.
Yes.
So super. I mean, amazing. I think there's lots to dissect here, guys. This is, one of the pros here for sales. So I think try to take some notes. And Kim, anything else you would want to add for our sales reps out there?
Nope, I think we covered it. But but I appreciate the time, and thank you so much.
Thank you.